Right, welcome everybody to Apocalypse. I am Gary Machuda doing an extremely early live stream. Sorry, I got to figure out how to do this. And this is a first because this is the first live stream I'm doing solo, which is very interesting. And it's also extremely early in the morning here. It's actually 3:47. So I got to see if I could do this live stream without waking up everybody in my household and also be awake and help you with your questions. So hopefully everything will go great. Let's see here. The reason why I'm looking over here is I'm trying to figure out how to pin. Oh boy. Well, maybe I won't have guests. I don't know why I can't get this comment to pin. But anyway, I'm not sure how many people we're going to actually have on this live stream, but I hope you're doing great. Today we're going to talk about Josephus. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat room and we'll do questions that way. This is actually a really important subject. Boy, I can't figure out why I can't pin this thing. YouTube's just not responding. Oh, well, anyway, we're going to talk about Josephus. Probably one of the most important areas of apologetics in terms of the Old Testament canon, bar none. Why? Because he is the earliest that we have of anyone giving anything that approximates a canon, if you will. But my assertion is Josephus doesn't give a canon. In fact, I believe his 22 books that he gives in his work against Appian actually isn't a canon at all. It is just a list of histories that are the most credible. And that's my thesis. But that's not what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about why so many people out there believe that Josephus is actually giving a canon. What is it that has misled nearly everybody into thinking Josephus is giving a canon? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. By the way, since it's a live stream, your comments are welcome. Also, we have memberships. We appreciate your support. And if you haven't subscribed or liked, please do. Since this is so early, at least where I am, I'm hoping it'll be late enough to we could get some different people onto the live stream that maybe aren't familiar with Apocrypha Apocalypse, because this live stream is dedicated specifically to the issue of the Old Testament canon. My friends, William Albrecht, David Zavaris, and myself, part of this team, and we're defending the traditional apostolic canon as set forth at the Council of Trent. So anyway, your comments are welcome in the chat room. It'd be nice to know that someone else is awake. And it'll also be nice to know whether I'm awake to help you. So I do have a little bit of a presentation. This is also a practice live stream. Like I said, this is the first time I actually been live solo. So I'm running StreamYard by myself, trying to figure out how to use YouTube, which I still can't figure out how to pin this comment. And wait, no, that's not it. Anyway, do all that stuff. Hopefully I can get some practice when a lot of people probably aren't viewing the channel. And then when I do a single live stream where I'll probably get more viewers, it'll be more smooth and I'll actually know what I'm doing. Let's see, anything else that I need to do before we begin? Can't think so. So anyway, hey, hope you're seeing this. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Josephus. Let me bring this up. I do have some slides for you. I want to make this big though. There we go. This, you don't need to see me. In fact, looking at me is probably penance. But here we go. So this is Josephus. Um, we're going to be talking about why so many people, so many Protestants, but really everybody, thinks that Josephus is giving us a canon. So let me begin by explaining what is a canon, and specifically canon list. A canon is basically a list of books that are coextensive with inspired scripture. So whatever is inspired by the Holy Spirit, has the Holy Spirit as primary author, is inspired, and therefore it's canonical. And anything that's not inspired, therefore, is not canonical. So the main function of a canonical list is to identify which books are authored by the Holy Spirit, therefore they're sacred, therefore they're canonical. Makes sense, right? So the question then is Josephus giving us a canon? And so with that idea, a lot of people think he is because it seems as if Josephus is giving us a list of inspired works. Now, this brings us to my point for this morning, is the most popular translation out there that I think pretty much everybody uses. Maybe you guys use it. This was the translation I bought when I first started getting interested in learning about my faith. It's the William Whiston translation, and it's been published and republished. Usually it's part of Josephus's works, which includes everything that he wrote. So it's got Antiquities of the Jews, Against Appian, his life or bios. It's got Jewish wars. It's got everything in it. And usually you can get it dirt cheap. Okay. William Whiston translation. And this is how William Whiston, oh boy, I cut this off. Oh, shame on me. I did a poor job here, and I can't fix it. This is on the left is William Whiston's translation. This is from Against Appian, and this is where he gives his 22 book count. Okay. By the way, that's another thing too. If Josephus is trying to give us a canon, like I said, the purpose of a canon is to identify which books are inspired. He doesn't identify which books are part of his 22 books, which should be your first red flag that there's something wrong going on here, that this probably isn't a canon, because just simply saying 22 books and giving brief descriptions of those books isn't super helpful. It doesn't really achieve the purpose of a canon list. Okay, so William Whiston translates Josephus because Josephus is writing in Greek. He says, "For we have not innumerable multitude of books among us, disagreeing from and contradicting one another, as the Greeks have, but only 22 books, which contain the records of all times past, which are justly believed to be divine." So you see here in the highlighted area, William Whiston's translation says that the Jews have 22 books which contain the records of all times past, which are justly believed to be divine. And of them, 5 belong to Moses, which contain the law and the traditions of the origin of mankind till his death. This interval of time is a little short of 3,000 years, but adds to the time of the death of Moses till the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, who reigned after Xerxes. The prophets who were after Moses wrote down what is done in their time in 13 books, and the remaining 4 books contain hymns to God and precepts on the conduct of human life. So you see, he doesn't actually identify which books belong to the prophets. What are these 4 books? He just gives descriptors. Again, something really strange if you're trying to outline a canon. And then he says, "It's true that our history has been written since Artaxerxes, very particularly, but has not been esteemed of right like authority by our forefathers. And unfortunately, I'm sorry about this slide, but I actually cut that off. And I have that hidden. Okay, so he's basically saying you have these 22 books, and then there's histories written after the 22 books, but they were not esteemed of like authority by our forefathers. Now, these two texts here, justly believed to be divine by our forefathers, frames Josephus. It gives us an outline of how we should understand Josephus' list. First, justly believed to be divine indicates that Josephus is making a distinction between inspired writings and human writings. Okay, so it would be a canon, in other words. Also, by our forefathers indicates that this is something that has been in place and been used by Jews prior to Josephus. Now, I probably should explain who Josephus is. Josephus is a Jewish historian writing about 100 AD. Okay? So you can see William Whiston's translation clearly makes it out that Josephus is talking about a canon, a definitive number or a list of inspired works that's separate from human works, and that this has been in place since the very beginning by our forefathers. Okay. All right. By the way, if you could do me a favor, if you're watching, leave a comment in the comment stream. It could be anything. Just say hi. I appreciate it. Just though I have everything set up and I'm actually looking at, I'm actually broadcasting correctly. Appreciate it, guys. Okay. So what people don't realize, by the way, that shot over on the far right, the works of Josephus, that's my copy. And I think most people today have that copy, Josephus. You could go to a local Christian bookstore or Amazon, pick it up. Like I said, millions of people are using this work. I'm going to let you in on something that most people aren't aware of. That work of Josephus is not a modern work. It's written by or translated originally by William Whiston, who lived from 1667 to 1752. This is extremely old translation. In fact, I have a copy of the works of Josephus. This is the second picture from the right, third from the left. You can see it's ye olde translation of Josephus, quite old. Okay. William Whiston is a character. You guys can just go on Google, type in William Whiston, and it'll give a biography. I believe he wasn't Trinitarian, if I remember correctly. But anyway, he did this translation back in the 1700s. Now, here's what's really deceptive. When you pick up the modern translation of Josephus, it's all in modern English. You really don't get the impression that you are using a work that's actually quite old. Okay? All right, thanks for your comments, guys. Or at least I know things are working right. If I could just post the, I'll try doing it again. But anyway, it's quite old. But it's in modern English. But if you look, if you have a copy, do yourself a favor, pick it up, and look at the very beginning of the editor, the editorial comments. You should see, oh boy, how come it's not letting me pin? Sorry, I just can't pin that thing. All right, look good. And by the way, thanks for being with me. Like I said, this is extremely early. I'm talking softly because I don't want to wake up everyone in my house. But anyway, if you look at the beginning of Josephus's translation, you'll actually see a comment by the editor saying, this is old, it's been updated and renewed. People don't read that stuff. They just assume that the text they have is a new work and that therefore it's probably cutting edge scholarship. right? Okay, so I'm going to give you, we're going to go into the rabbit hole. I'm going to show you things that, unless you watch Apocrypha Apocalypse, you're completely unaware of. And if you're a defender of the faith, guys, this is a silver bullet for you. You can refute probably 99% of non-Catholic apologists who are appealing to Josephus just by this one move I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is really important. So please, guys, if you have friends who are defenders of the faith, or you have friends who are looking at the canon, maybe they're not Catholic, share this stream with them, because this is going to be an eye-opener and it's really important. Okay, all right, so let's continue. Let's talk about William Whiston's translation. First, like I said, William Whiston translation is incredibly old and incredibly popular. So this comes from Louis Feldman's work, Josephus and Modern Scholarship. And this was written, I think, back in 1937. And it says, for over 200 years, the most widely known translation of Josephus into English, or for that matter, any other language, that has been that of William Whiston, originally published in 1737. According to Scheckenberg, it says it has been reprinted and re-edited 132 times, and I have found 85 additional reprintings. Do you know any book besides the Bible that has 132 editions, or actually plus 85, probably even more since then? That's crazy, right? All right. Awesome, neighbor guy. The neighbor guy, that's awesome. Good for you. Keep praying. Okay. It was this version that occupied a place on the shelf of literate English-speaking persons between the Jewish scriptures and the New Testament until it was displaced in this century by the Loeb Classical Library. And in a matter of, in many homes, it has lasted until the present day. The translation has undoubted virility, but not only is it based on an inferior text, that of Haberkamp, we're going to talk about Haberkamp, issued in 1726, but it is full of inaccuracies. Okay? Full of inaccuracies. And is based on Haberkamp's work. Keep that in mind. Okay? All right. So, let's dig into this. So I'm a nerd. You guys know that. I'm the type of guy that actually, when I see stuff like that, I want to dig into it. So here's our next slide. So these are clips from Haberkamp's work. The Greek text that William Whiston, way back in the 1730s, used. Okay, I actually found it on the internet. It's available up there. Look here, guys. Okay, so this is the text William Whiston was reading when he made his English translation. Now, I don't expect you guys to know Greek and Latin, but notice here it says theia, and then it says, well, I'll just give you the English translation. Theia means divine, and this word here means divine, believe, that which is believed. Okay, so it is in the Greek text, divinely believed to be divine, you could say. And here's the Latin, says the same thing for you Latinist. Okay. For the second part here about it saying of like authority with the former by our forefathers, notice it's not here. Here, let me take this off. Sorry about that. It's believed not same authority than those before. There's nothing about forefathers in the Haberkamp book. Okay. Oh, cool. Greek Catholic. That's awesome. Glad to have you with us. You can help us with the Greek here. Maybe you confirm, the Greek Catholic, confirm for everybody that I know this is really archaic font. It's hard to read. That's why I don't want to read it. But can you confirm it doesn't say anything about forefathers in the highlighted area there? For you Latinists, here it is. By the way, it's changes the S's to F's. But yeah, pretty crazy stuff, right? So William Whiston just throws in by our forefathers. He's interpreting Josephus. That's not part of the Josephus. But that interpretation makes it sound like Josephus, whatever he's saying about the 22 books, is something that was already in place by other forefathers, and he's just following along. You see how deceptive that is? But the main point, the thing that makes, yes, thank you, Greek Catholic. You're awesome. All right. So, yeah, it's really hard to read. I hate those archaic fonts. The main point is this, though. Theia means divine, and that means it's a canon. So is this part of the list? Well, if we look at Haverkamp, so this is another picture of Haverkamp, and you can see the text is the same if you can squint and blow it up. Maybe take a screenshot if you don't believe me, but it's the same text. Haverkamp has at the bottom theia, right? And it says illa theia ex Eusebio. In other words, that divine is out of Eusebius. So it's interesting, even Haverkamp, way back when William Whiston was making his translation, notes that the word theia, divine, comes from Eusebius. Okay, that doesn't really tell us much, but at least he was able to identify that theia actually is from Eusebius. Now let's go further into the rabbit hole. Haverkamp made his translation way back before any of the critical text of Josephus against Appian came out. So it's an uncritical text. Okay. Now, the earliest that I know of standard critical text of Against Appian is Benedict Nice's. This was made way back in 1888. And I have it on Logos. So these are screenshots from Logos. So we can actually read it. Okay. Okay, so the 1888 critical edition of the Greek, it says basically, justly believed. There is no word theia here in the preferred reading of Benedict Nice's Josephus. So where did theia go? Where did divine go? It's just justly believed. Well, you go to the footnote here, and it says theia, divine, before believed, addition Eusebius. So it too flags that the word divine is not Josephus. It comes from Eusebius, the early church historian who made a copy of Josephus in this section. So it's not part of Josephus. And the earliest critical Greek text that we have, including Haverkamp too, if you want to put him in there, except the difference is Haverkamp actually put it in the preferred reading of Against Appian. Benedict Nice takes it out. Okay, he takes it out. Okay, very important point. Now, that article we read by Feldman mentioned the Loeb Classic Library. And so here is the Greek for the Loeb Classical Library. And notice here, the preferred reading is justly believed. No theia, no divine, nothing about being divine. Footnote just says plus or addition, theia, Eusebius. Okay, and also, by the way, there's nothing about from our forefathers or something like that. Nothing there. If you don't believe me, here's the English translation, Thackeray, of the Globe Classical Library. Again, it doesn't say divine, those which are justly accredited. Also, if you go down, worthy of equal credit, not by our forefathers, but just equal credit with the earlier records. What's the discussion? Oh, we're talking about why Josephus is not giving a canon. So for those who are just joining us, we're talking about Josephus and why he doesn't give us a 22-book canon. And the reason is because a canon distinguishes between divine books and human books. And what I'm talking right now is why almost everybody around the world thinks Josephus is giving us an Old Testament canon is because they're likely relying on William Whiston's translation, which actually is a really old translation that's been so updated, everybody thinks it's modern. And what we're going through here is to show that William Whiston has additions to the text that's really not there in Josephus. He says it's divine. Josephus doesn't say he's separating divine books from human books. So there's your recap. Thank you, the Greek Catholic. Appreciate it. It's great to have you on board. Just so you can confirm everything I'm showing in the Greek. I'm not making this up. Okay, this is, guys, if you need a really good translation of Josephus, highly recommend. This is very expensive, but I highly recommend you pick this up. It's by Brill. It's Flavius Josephus translation and commentary by Steve Mason. And Steve, I think, does an outstanding job, not only with the text that he gives, but especially his remarks, his critical notes. So this is from his work. So this is the most recent and most authoritative translation of Josephus. And as you can see here, what does he give? Which are rightly trusted. Nothing about rightly believed to be divine, right? The footnote. So you see 158. Let's go to the footnote. It says trust. The issue highlighted in 1, 2, and 6, and its appearance at this critical juncture here to those that are believed, those that have been and are believed. It's what do I want to say? It's so early, I can't even think of the. Anyway, let's just go. Shows that Josephus recognizes its importance rightly. Okay, dikaios echoes the appeal to proper deduction from the facts in 1:6, but in context provides rather little support for that judgment for any readers not already convinced of his case. Okay, now here is the money quote. The addition of theia in Eusebius's version, correctly believed to be divine, may be a Christian modification, anticipating the claim made in 142. Then it cites Gutschmidt 41402. So Mason believes that it comes from Josephus, and Josephus might actually be a corruption of Josephus that a Christian added, either a Christian added it to Josephus, or maybe he means a Christian added it to Eusebius, or maybe Eusebius made this addition, but it's not that of Josephus. Sorry, guys. That's what you get for live streaming at 4 in the morning. By the way, guys, for those who are here and watching the stream, or maybe you're watching it in the future, while you're at it, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, like, leave some comments. That helps the algorithm. Especially if you have any questions, love to answer your questions on Josephus. Like I said, I'm trying not to wake up everybody, so hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear, even though I'm not really projecting my voice. Okay. Also, for that second part that Whiston adds about the forefathers, you can see here, Barclay, but this is not judged worthy of the same trust. There's nothing about by our forefathers here. That is totally Whiston. You notice how Whiston actually changes the perspective on Josephus? Because if you're reading him even with the 1888 critical edition, you don't get that. Okay, here's another critical edition, 1898. As you can see here, wait, this is actually, if I remember correctly, this is Rufinus, a 4th century father who translated against Appian, I believe. Notice he just has in Latin, justly admitted, justly believed. And you can see here, there's nothing about divine in Rufinus. There's no variance or anything. Okay, Müller, 1877. In German, I gave you the English translation for those that can't read German. Theia is not found in the manuscripts, but only in Eusebius's Church History 310, from which Haberkamp took it into his text. That's an important admission. Only Eusebius has the word divine. No other Greek or Latin copy of Against Appian has divine in it. It's only in Eusebius, and it's in Whiston because Haberkamp put it in his preferred reading, where we saw in the other critical editions, they don't. Okay. However, as Gerlach correctly remarks in 21, it is not yet of divinity of the Old Testament scriptures, but initially only the credibility that stems from their divinity. And then he hearkens to a later section in Against Appian, where they believe, yeah, divinity does come into play, but it doesn't come into play with the list. And I won't read the rest, but basically that's the important takeaway. Eusebius is the only manuscript that gives divine. And as you saw from the Brill book, that is not authentic. Okay, now they quoted Gottschmidt. Okay, here's Gottschmidt, and basically he too says, however, it is not only dispensable, the word theia, but wrong, since it is only a question of historical reliability. And by the way, he hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what's going on with Josephus. Josephus isn't concerned about discerning divine books from profane human books. Why? Because he's writing to pagans. He's writing to Appian and his companions. And he's trying to vindicate the historical sources of the Jews. Now, the Greeks don't care whether the Jews believe these books to be divine or not. What they care about is whether these books are historically accurate. And so Gottschmidt is absolutely right. It's not a question of divinity, so theia doesn't really make sense in Josephus at this point. Hopefully that makes sense. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, I wasn't able to pin the link to come on board and have a discussion. But just in the chat room, if you could give me your questions, I appreciate it. So you see here, Whiston really does cause a train wreck for anybody that relies on his translation, which is everybody. Okay, and this is why it's so important, because you will run across non-Catholics who claim, even some Catholics, who claim Josephus is giving you a canon, a 22-book canon, but that's because they're relying on Whiston's translation that makes it into a canonical discussion. But the problem is Whiston's wrong. He makes a couple of critical mistakes that really makes Josephus sound like he's doing something that he really isn't doing. And that's relying on Eusebius, and it's an addition by Eusebius. It's not found in other manuscripts of Josephus. Okay, here's another Greek text. As you can see, it says, justly believed. There's no theia, no divine. And it says Thea, believed to be divine. Again, it flags Josephus, or excuse me, Eusebius. There you go. Now, this is the most modern critical, or probably the most authoritative, I should say, because Barclay came after. Barclay actually uses this. Siegert, Schreckenberg, and Vogel. In the footnote here, it says justly, and then it gives all the manuscripts for justly. Thea, edition Eusebius, CF, and then it gives Slatter, and Schurer, Vermes edition, 1979. Now, being a nerd, I'm always digging in the sources. If you want to be a good defender of the faith, you got to do this. You got to be a nerd and dive into the footnotes to make sure everything is solid. So in this, probably the most authoritative critical edition, it flags Thea. It doesn't put it in its preferred read of Josephus. Puts in the footnote, flags it as Eusebius, and then it gives some secondary sources. I was able to find the Shure Vermes. So this is, sorry for, it's not perfect. This is actually a copy I made from my phone. Okay. But I want to share it with you. So this is from the History of the Jewish People in the Age of Jesus Christ by Emil Schuller, which is a good book. This is not the one that you probably have on your bookshelf. That one by Emil Schuller is not the updated edited version. The updated edited version is a multiple volume set. Okay. I think History of the Jewish People might be 1 or 2 volumes. This is like 4 or 5. This is edited by Giza Vermes. Okay. So if you try looking this up in the edition you have, it won't be there because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it. So I hunted down the Vermes edition, which is the updated one, and I found it. So I'm saving you tons of research on this video. So this is what it says. Okay, Emil Schuller says, he says explicitly that among the Jews, only 22 books rightly enjoyed confidence. Notice it doesn't say divine. And then it gives the Greek. Okay, books rightly believed. Footnote 11, I believe this is Vermes' footnote, says instead of, I'll just translate, justly believed, Eusebius, in his rendering of Josephus in church history, 310, has rightly believed to be divine. Say Thea right there. But as Thea is missing in both the Greek and Latin text of Josephus, it is rightly deleted by Nice and Thackeray, like we saw, right? Benedict Nice, 1888, deleted it from the preferred reading. Thackeray likewise deleted it. It's not in any critical Greek text of Josephus. And here, like I said, the most authoritative one out there, as far as the Greek reading of Against Appian, cites Schurer. And Schurer says they were right to get rid of this. Man, that's huge. That's huge. Here is the, just in case you're thinking, well, maybe this isn't the right reading of Eusebius. So let's talk about Eusebius. One of the earliest translations of Greek Eusebius into Latin is Rufinus. Now, you guys might know Rufinus if you watched the Apocrypha Apocalypse channel. Rufinus was a best buddy of Jerome. St. Jerome, they were good friends. They had a falling out over Origen, and they became the worst of enemies. And both Jerome and Rufinus did a lot of translating into Latin. So this is the earliest Latin translation of Eusebius by Rufinus. And it says, so it does not have the divinus in there. It doesn't say rightly believed to be divine. So it's not part of, wait, am I reading that right? Sorry, guys. It's really early in the morning here. Truly, by all, believe, first have. Oh, well, I'm just going to continue. And that's about it. So here's the summary, just the takeaways from this live stream. First, William Whiston's translation is the most widely circulated translation of Josephus, over 132 editions. William Whiston's 1737 edition used a pre-critical Greek text by Haverkamp in 1726. Imagine how old this is. It included justly believed to be divine as part of its preferred reading. Even Haverkamp's text noted that divine came from Eusebius. And William Whiston just basically added by our forefathers. It's not found in any Greek or Latin text for that matter, including Haverkamp. Whiston's translation makes Josephus distinguishing between divine and human text, that is, making it a canonical list, is not there. It's just not there. The addition of divine is found only in Eusebius, and it's not authentic. And we proved that in this video. I showed you all the critical Greek, or a lot of the critical Greek texts for Against Appian. None of them included as their preferred reading. And as you can see by some of the best modern translations, the footnotes say it's not to be there. Now, how many people here read the latest critical Brill book on Against Appian, right? No one does. Why would you spend a fortune to buy a Brill book when you could pick up Josephus's translation for a couple of bucks because it's dirt cheap? Because everybody republishes the same text over and over again, right? So this is stuff that, like I said, if you're watching this early morning live stream, you know something that probably 99.9% of the people out there don't know. So if you're a defender of the faith, I highly recommend that you commit to memory William Whiston's translation, at least of those two lines, justly believed to be divine and by our forefathers, so that when you're talking to someone and they cite Eusebius, or they're reading Eusebius, like, or on YouTube, for example, you'll see people go after Josephus claiming that he's giving a canon. Look at the translation they use. If they're using Whiston's translation, you can call them out on it because that's a bad translation. And that person's being misled by this guy who translated Josephus way back in the 1700s. And you can point them in the right direction. And if you would, give them the link to this video. And they can see with their own eyes, this is really, really bad. Josephus isn't giving a canon. He's not distinguishing divine from human books. Rather, he's just pointing out the best Jewish historiography that had occurred during this period with 22 books. That's all he's doing. All right. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So this is really important stuff. Any questions? If you have any questions, throw it up on the chat screen. Sorry, I can't bring any guests up. By the way, it doesn't have to be on Josephus. If you have any general questions, I'll be glad to answer the best of my ability at this early hour in the morning. Also, guys, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Tell your friends, let's grow the channel. Also, another way you can support us is we have memberships. So if you're inclined, get a membership or gift a membership to somebody if you think this information is important for people to know, because it concerns the Word of God. People are being misled on the Word of God. and they're using bad sources to do it. So you can defend the word of God by doing that. Hey, I appreciate that, the neighbor guy. Totally appreciate that comment. In fact, I haven't even, how do I do this? Oh, that's how you do it. All right. Sorry, guys. You were making great comments in the comment section. I'm half asleep. I haven't been showing them. So appreciate that. Uh, yeah, actually, I want to repost this. There we go. The Greek guy says, there's nothing in Greek about the forefathers. Appreciate that. Uh, totally with you, Gary, but nevertheless, the number 22 is significant. And where does he get that from? Yeah, there is a phenomenon known as pareidolia. And I don't know if you are familiar with that. Pareidolia is where you can look at a potato chip and see the picture of the Virgin Mary in it, or some other thing, or some sort of random pattern that you can make out pictures or things. It's part of the way our brains work. We're always looking for patterns and connections. It's just the way we're wired. And I think it's total happenstance. It's just totally random that Josephus came out with 22 books that later on rabbinic tradition uh, decided to count the number of books in line with the 22 or 24 letters of the Jewish Hebrew alphabet. I think it's just a total happenstance that he picked this specific number of books, and it matches the 22. And I think it's kind of scholarly pareidolia that they see the number 22 and then they connect it to a later rabbinic tradition that I think the two really aren't connected at all. And that's why I think he does have 22. And I think that throws off people. One way you can address that, oh, awesome. Divine Mercy, what are you doing up this early? You must live on the West Coast. But anyway, good morning. It's great to have you on board. And yes. So I think it's pure happenstance that's 22 books. But here's the way you can show that it is happenstance. Let me see if I should have had a slide with Josephus's actual text. I'm going to have to go all the way back to the beginning. Sorry about this, guys. Again, I'm speaking quietly because I don't want to wake up my family. It's 4:35 now. Notice he doesn't name the books. He only gives numbers and descriptions. Okay, so he has 5 books of Moses, and he tells what time period the 5 books of Moses cover. And then he says that there are from Moses to Artaxerxes, there's 13 books that cover that period. And then there are 4 extra books. There are hymns of God and precepts of conduct of human life. That's all we know about his books. He never actually identifies what these books are by title. He just gives descriptions and numbers. There are scholars out there, very good scholars, who will disagree which belongs to the 22 books. In fact, a number of scholars, if you take those descriptions and you compare it to the number of books, it's likely that Josephus is missing a book or two of the later rabbinic canon. It doesn't match up. Like, for example, Job. Now, remember, Josephus in the descriptions, he's talking about time periods, right? You have creation until the death of Moses is the 5 books. Death of Moses to Artaxerxes, you have prophets. And then he adds on 4 additional books that are didactic. It's hymns and also precepts, right? What do you do with the book of Job? Because Jews, Christians believe that the time period Job is recording is actually within the period of Moses. But it's not part of the 5 books, but it wouldn't be part of the prophets because that's too late of a period. So the only place Job could fit in would be the 4 additional books. But if you fit Job in, then you're missing some books, right? So it just doesn't square with the later rabbinic canon. Doesn't square with the later rabbinic canon. No, he does include Esther, I would say, because Artaxerxes would correspond with Esther, and he definitely uses Esther with the deuterocanonical text, the deuterocanonical sections of Esther in his Antiquities of the Jews. So I personally believe he includes Esther. I think most scholars do. Ezra, I'd have to check the different list, but you might be right. Oh no, no problem at all. Hey, this hour of the morning, you're doing better than me. That's true. But yeah, so that's one way you can say the 22 books that he gives. It's eccentric. He's outlining what he believed were the most solid historical sources, not the complete number of inspired sources. Trying to see anything else. You would have to manually type this, but if you want to come on and have a discussion with me, here's the link. Yeah, good stuff. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions I missed. I don't hear any activity in my house, so thank God. I don't think I've woke up anybody. But hey, guys, I truly appreciate that you joined me. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I think I'm going to, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop the live stream here. By the way, guys, again, if you haven't subscribed, really appreciate it if you could, especially if you like this content. Oh, and also memberships, William Albrecht and myself are on Patreon. We appreciate your support. Our families appreciate it. How come I'm up so early? Well, I always get up super early. As I'm getting older, I'm getting up earlier and earlier. So I was up at 2 today, and I thought I need to practice StreamYard because I want to let people know about this channel. And if we always do the same live streams at the same time, people won't know about it, won't come up on their feed. So I thought I'd do that. Oh, yes, very good. Oops, thank you. This is the one I wanted to highlight. Yes, everybody, please keep William in your prayers. He's going to be debating this morning. And so I'm fired up about that too. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot to ask for prayers for him. You guys don't know about William Albrecht. He is a monster of a Catholic apologist. Just a walking encyclopedia of information, incredibly articulate. He has a website, Patristic Pillars, and he also has a YouTube YouTube stream channel, what I'm saying, called Patristic Pillars. So if you're not familiar with William's work, he works here at the Apocrypha Apocalypse. He's a contributor, and he's outstanding. So go to his live stream. If you're not familiar with him, you might want to put it on your feed so that you can get all his good stuff. He's going to be debating. I don't know what the thesis of his debate is, but I think correct me if I'm wrong, Divine Mercy Apologetics. By the way, Divine Mercy Apologetics is awesome as well. So guys, also support our brother there, because I was just listening to his stuff on Filioque. It's outstanding. I just recently discovered his channel, and I've been binge watching his stuff. So support our brother there. Divine Mercy, do you know the exact topic? I think, he's debating a Catholic theologian or Orthodox theologian on the Trinity, if I remember. I forgot what the name of the fellow is. So yeah, forgive me. Go to Patristic Pillars. It will be there. Oh, really? Yeah, Filioque is why you're Catholic. That's awesome. There we go. Thank you. Correct view of the Trinity. Yeah, there was a Catholic, I think he became Orthodox, that he holds a heretical view of the Trinity. And William's been dialoguing with him, and I guess they're going to have a debate. So get your popcorn. It might be too early for popcorn, but get a unsweetened iced tea or something and check out William's debate. It's going to be very interesting. By the way, William has debated more people than I think anybody I'm aware of on as many topics as I'm aware of. And he's a great guy. So patristic pillars, divine mercy apologetics, two awesome brothers of the Lord that are doing outstanding research. Can't pronounce his name. Yeah, I know. Luwaji or something like that. I don't want to butcher it. If you watch Apocrypha Apocalypse, you know I'm terrible with name pronunciations. Here's do Protestants have a vague view of the Trinity? Yeah, Albanian Christianity. Hey, thanks for coming on board. It depends who you talk to. When you're talking about Protestantism, you're talking about the weather in the United States, right? Weather in the United States, it's snowing in Alaska probably. It's hot and humid in Florida. It's dry and hot in Arizona or Texas. And in Michigan, it could be anything depending on what hour of the day it is, right? It could be snowing or super hot. Protestantism's the same way. When you're talking about Protestantism, there's a wide variety of beliefs. I think Protestantism probably mirrors Catholicism in that you have the studious types that are very good on the Trinity, and you also have people that don't really care and they have a really poor view of the Trinity. There are Protestant denominations that are pseudo-Christian because they've gone off the deep end in Trinitarian theology, like Jehovah's Witnesses are pseudo-Christian groups, but they're really Protestant historically. So Protestants don't consider them Christian, neither do Catholics, but they have a wacky view of the Trinity. Same thing with Mormons. That actually comes out Methodism. So yeah, it's all over the map. It depends who you're talking to. All right. Oh, you read Hostile Witnesses. Thank you. I'm humbled that you did that. It was great. Love the anti-examples. Yeah, that's a fun work. It's basically I try to show the truths of Catholicism through the writings of their enemies of the church, and I go all the way back to the New Testament and up to World War II. So thank you. I'm so humbled that you read my book. Thank you so much. Have a feeling that he thinks his Father being Yahweh. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Luwaji, I think is his last name. He claims to hold to monarchian view of the Trinity, and I think he says the Father is the only properly speaking God. But I don't want to misrepresent him. So again, it's so early in the morning. I'm surprised I could put together a couple of sentences that are coherent. What about William Lane Craig? That's a great example. Yeah, don't follow Craig. I don't think you should even follow Craig on theistic apologetics, to tell you the truth. He's a nominalist. And I personally believe, just between you and me, William Lane Craig will adopt any philosophical notion that he believes he can defend. And he holds them all together, even though they're not compatible. And I think that's why he's so hard to debate, because you can't. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't pin him down. But when it comes to the Trinity, Sam Shamoun's another brother. Guys, if you're not a follower of Sam Shamoun, need to be. He's very aggressive, but he does it on purpose. He's the best person on Trinity. I mean, it's almost preternatural how good he is when it comes to stuff like that. Definitely follow him. And he's done stuff on William Lane Craig, and he will he will show you all the parts where Craig is wrong when it comes to the Trinity. And Craig's wrong on a whole bunch of things. And like I said, I don't even trust him for theistic apologetics. Once I found out he's a nominalist, I realized where he's coming from, and it's not good. By the way, Swati is, by the way, he uses some nominalism as well. And Divine Mercy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you pointed that out, didn't you, during a live stream? Maybe it was with Sam. I can't remember. But yeah, when he's talking about Jesus being nominally divine, that's nominalism. Nominalism, by the way, is one of the worst. It's destroyed Christianity. Protestantism comes directly from nominalism. And it's destroyed civilization in a way. By the way, if you're interested in that connection, I have a book called Revolt Against Reality. With that and other heresies, I show how basically Western civilization is destroyed through those thoughts and their outlays. Okay, Craig conflates rationality with will. While rationality is proper to personhood, will is proper to essence. He is dangerous. He absolutely is dangerous. Absolutely. Thank you for that breakdown. If I could put the link up, I'd have you on board, brother, and you can help me answer these questions. All right. So last call for questions, guys. Then I got to book out of here. Thank you so much for coming on board. And like I said, I think this is a really important topic. That's why my first live stream as a solo artist, so to speak. Don't worry, William and David, I'm sure, are going to have solo live streams on Pocket for Apocalypse, and we're doing team live stream. By the way, we're hoping to do one Wednesday and Friday, probably around 1 p.m. Eastern time. The link's still there. Okay, good. So join us Wednesday and Friday, and tell your friends. Let's try to grow the numbers here, because this is really important information. Because like I said, I've reviewed maybe a half dozen YouTube channels that go after the Catholic canon, Old Testament canon. All of them use William Whiston, and they're completely oblivious that they're using something that is actually not authentic, but in a bad way. It actually steers you away from what Josephus actually is saying. All right. I think that's it, guys. So I hope everyone has a great day. And thank you all for coming, especially those who have left comments. By the way, leave some other comments too. Let's try to influence the algorithm. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.